Hello there and welcome to another Hero Arts video. It's Michelle Short here, and today I'm going to be showing you a way that you can use a background stamp as part of a focal point. So I've started off with this holiday foliage bold print. It's a really pretty design on this, and I am going to stamp that onto some craft cardstock. So I'm just going to prep that with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to ink up the bold prints with Versamark ink. I'm adding quite a lot of ink onto this stamp because it's a really detailed image. And when I press down in my stamp press here, I'm pressing down really well, again because I want to get a nice impression on this. And then I can apply some ultrafine clear embossing powder. I'm just going to tap off the excess, and then I can funnel that embossing powder back into the jar. And then I'm just going to heat set at that until it's completely melted. And this gives a really nice tone on tone look, but with the embossing powder it gives a little bit extra because you've got that nice sort of shine from the embossing powder. Next I'm taking the Deer and Ornament Fancy die. And this is how it will come to you without all of the sticky tape on it. The pieces are connected, but I've cut them apart so that I could use the layers separately. So I'm just removing that sticky tape, and I'm just going to die cut this panel with the outside ornament piece. So I'm going to work out where I want that to be cut, just so that I've got a nice background there with lots of interest, and I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine. And then I have added the pieces back together and run that through my die cutting machine with some white cardstock, and I've cut that 3 times. And I'm going to layer those up, and I think that the added dimension of the 3 layers just makes quite a big difference. So I'm going to use some liquid glue and stack those together. If I'd thought about it at the time, I could have added some adhesive sheet onto the cardstock before I die cut it, but I completely forgot about that, so I'm just going to use the liquid glue today. Then once all 3 of the ornaments are stacked together, and then I'm going to add some liquid glue onto the back of that piece, and then I can add that onto my background piece. And then I can just place something heavy on the top of that while the glue dries. So next I'm going to work on my sentiment, and I've got some red cardstock here, and I've prepped that with an anti-static powder tool. And then I'm going to ink up my Merry Christmas sentiment with Versamark ink. This sentiment is from the Offbeat Holiday Messages stamp set. I'm just going to stamp that down, and then I can apply some detail white embossing powder. So I'm just going to tap off the excess. Again, I can funnel that back into the jar, and then I can just heat set that. And I want to cut this into a thin strip, so I'm going to use a craft knife and a metal ruler to do that. Here I've got my ornament all dry, so I'm going to add some tape runner onto the back, and then I can adhere that onto an A2 top folding white card base. Next I can add my sentiment on top, and I'm going to adhere this with some foam tape. So I'm going to add some foam tape onto the right hand side, and then a little bit on the left as well where it hangs over the ornament. The bit in the middle doesn't need the foam tape because that's already quite dimensional with the 3 different layers of the ornament. So just adding a little bit onto the back of that. And then I can press that down onto the card, and I'm using a T-square ruler just to make sure that that's straight. And last but not least, I want to add some twine to the top of the ornament. So I'm using some black hemp twine here, and I'm just going to make a little bow. I'm not the best at bow making, I have to be honest with you. So I fiddled with this for quite some time. Let's just get a little bow there. And then once I'm happy with it, I can add some liquid glue onto the back of the actual knot in the middle of the bow, and then I can press that down. That's going to take a little while to dry, but once it's dry, that's completely in place. So that's the card finished for today. I really like how that background stamp is on the back of the ornament. I think it gives something just a little bit extra. Links to the products will be on the Hero Arts blog. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.